Am I starting us?
Do it.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I will intro us. That should just be that should really just be the intro every time. It's like, who's doing the intro?
I'm putting that in the episode this time.
So that's fine. All right. So, welcome to the Winning Sometimes show, where Emiliano, Clint, and I share our joy and sometimes hatred for all things gaming, tech, and today, we once and for all settle the great debate, which platform is best. That's right, we're going to finally settle the debate between PC, console, and mobile, and we're going to let you know which one the real gamers use. Strap yourselves in for a completely objective analysis of all the gaming platforms in this episode. For those of you who are not familiar with our show, that's sarcasm. If I ever do the intro, don't trust it. That's really what I'm just giving you all that ahead of time. Just don't trust it when I do the intro. Just throwing it out there. But we are going to be talking about gaming, right, on different consoles and how different pros and cons of each. We have no objectivity. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. We have no ability to be objective, right? So that you're probably not going to get an objective kind of analysis here, but we are going to talk about kind of what we like, what it is that we prefer about each platform. So I'm going to throw it to Crack first. I'm going to throw it over to Clint. Which platform is best? Objectively,
So I
of
have
course.
this foam finger for my platform of choice, and it is not actually a thing.
I was like, man, he's got like props and everything. He's all kinds of prepared.
No, I my favorite platform is PC, but there's some key reasons why. I played console for forever. Actually, I think most of my gaming, most of the time that I've ever gamed. But I have played a lot of mobile. PC is my favorite though because of modding. Because you can choose your own performance profile. You can choose to tweak things. Like, I'm kind of a tech nerd, so I like digging into things and making them work how I want them to. Obviously, everyone has a budget, so you have to have the hardware to get the performance you want. But even if you have low performing hardware, like really just old stuff, like you can squeeze it out. Like, you could probably get 60 FPS off of a 6 or 7 year old computer, which you cannot do in console. At console, it's like, you just 30 off the top. I mean, now it's getting to be 60 for a lot of games on the newest gen, but 6 or 30 off the top, and then most games, if they're not properly optimized, which, I mean, a lot of games aren't nowadays, right? We'll release it now and fix it later is the mantra that a lot of publishers do, which is stupid in another podcast.
I think that's on every platform. Yeah, that is a completely different podcast.
But yeah, it's provided that. Oh, I was talking about console. Yeah, sometimes it's even lower than 30 FPS, which is just makes your eyes bleed. What about you?
But see, like,
can you tell who the guy who games on PC all the time?
Well, see, but I have a counterpoint to that, and because I grew up from before you were born, and I did a lot of PC gaming back when I was a lot younger.
Yeah,
and my biggest issue with PC gaming,
on like your 486.
Yes, there was a point when people didn't think that was it a Pentium? That the Pentium was the max that we could go speed-wise. They didn't think we could get past that. And a couple years later, now we're gig. Who cares about Pentium anymore? But yes, the 486s, Pentiums, that was my era, so to speak. And the problem that I had is that, like, every couple of months, I was constantly having to get more RAM. I was having to get a new video card. It feels like nowadays things have stabilized a little bit, where the hardware will, for a year or more, you can kind of get by. But it felt like, and again, maybe I'm not remembering it quite correctly, but I just remember back in my day, the constant updates, constant having to buy new equipment, new motherboards, because a new CPU would come out, make a new motherboard because it wouldn't fit the new one. A new motherboard meant new graphics card, meant new CPU, meant new case because the cases were all a little different.
Yeah.
So I just remember back in that, being tired of like every couple of months having to basically make a new PC. And consoles,
if you were up to date, yeah.
Yeah, and consoles at that point were a breath of fresh air because I could have a console for a couple of years and not worry about memory, CPU, and it would work. Granted, it wasn't the top quality whatever,
but it was tried and true.
But in the era of 486s and Pentiums, the quality wasn't quite as wide as it was. Back in the Xbox 360 and Xbox One days, I felt like, there was a little less distance between them graphics wise. So I mean, I don't know. Hearing you talk, I'm like, man, I remember having to update my hardware so much.
Yeah.
So I got tired of it. And that's kind of what drove me into console gaming.
That's extremely interesting to me because, first of all, I was thinking like 2000 and beyond, which, I mean, your first comment, like, yeah, that's the difference between our line of thinking, is when we were born and when we started gaming. But I was gonna say, who's they? Like the Pentium 1 or the Pentium 2 or what?
The elders of the internet.
I don't remember
if they were involved with like Moore's Law was made like 20 years before the Pentium 2. So like I don't know how.
Because I remember 386s.
Yeah.
I remember 486s. Then we got to the Pentiums, and I was getting tired of it at that point.
Right.
And I remember there was a point where like there was, and again, this is like fog of years in my brain and being an old man. But I remember there was a point where people were saying that CPUs couldn't get any faster. That like, this is it. Like, this is the speed that we're going to be at. And then like the next year, all of a sudden they're getting like in gig. And I'm like, whoa, okay, this is crazy.
Yeah.
It just felt like there was a time period where things were just, leapfrogging so dang much.
I can understand that because I've played games from, the 90s and the 80s, like late 80s, early 90s.
King's Quest, Police Quest, Sierra games, SSI Gold Box games.
And you'd have all kinds of weird issues. And the UIs, like the user interfaces were never very like easy to figure out. You had to have the manual for everything. So like the design for a console being sleek, straight, you've got your buttons, you got your clicker and you move it like.
Okay. Wait. Here, let me tell you this.
Yeah.
Do you know how we got demos back in the day?
CDs or
from
floppies.
Magazines.
Yes.
From magazines. They were in magazines. You know how we got DLC or updates to programs that we had? The same magazines on the disc would have like a list of demos and a list of patches that you could apply to your games.
Brothers, Ronan. That's how I started my PC gaming life.
It's so great.
I would get those demo discs and I'd load them up, and I was a 6-year-old loading up the A drive, which is the disc drive, opening it up, and then.
All right, I'm just gonna throw it out there that y'all are stupid classy if y'all had CDs.
Okay.
If you were not using like the 5-inch floppy
5
drives or whatever.
5 1/4 floppy, 3.5 hard disk.
Sorry, not to cheat anybody of that quarter inch.
I will defer to the elders.
But I mean, so for me, that's kind of that kind of led me into console gaming. Go ahead.
I interrupted.
And I think from console gaming is kind of where I got into also like, the Game Boy and the Sega Genesis, because that was an extension of the consoles. I was able to take these games that I liked, and again back then, like the Game Boy wasn't in color. It was the black and white Game Boy. Game Boy Advance color came out later, but even those were like gimped versions of like the consoles. So I guess those Game Boys were like, the console was the PC and the Game Boy was like the console. It's like the inverse of PC versus console back then. But being able to play like Super Mario or Pokemon on the go, and not be tied to the house was for me great.
Right.
Because I commute. Went to school. I rode the bus, transit system back in the day. So being able to sit there with my little Game Boy Advance or what have you, while the time away. So,
I mean, I've
talked so much already.
Yeah, this is.
Oh. Yeah, Matt, come on.
Oh no, sorry. If you got good stuff to say, I mean, I'm not gonna stop you. But it's really interesting because 100% like Emiliano, I am with you. Like, I made fun of you saying like, oh, you gaming on your 486 because yes, I was gaming on like my 286. Like,
wait, my
I remember that,
EGA monitor. Yeah, I had one of those. Mm-hmm. Sorry, go ahead.
I 100%. Remember having to do like CD / like games / and like you had to run like a command line to, command line prompts to get to start your game, right? Just everything was, freaking in DOS or whatever. It's really funny because I had never considered, because I had a computer and I also had my Atari 2600. And the Atari 2600, you are 100% right. And I'm sure this is also, it's not as big a deal now, but it's the same sort of deal. Like, you just shoved the cartridge or whatever in your 2600 and you played a game. There was no like, oh God, what is the command to do this? What's the name of this file? And having to be like, oh, dir enter and like read through and find your executable file and all that sort of stuff. But what's really strange about it is that it would take me just as long to like remember and figure out how to get into the game as it would probably like take me to like that I would spend playing it. You'd spend 15 minutes playing the game or getting into the game, play it for 15 minutes, and you're like, oh crap, I got to go somewhere or whatever. But I don't know why this was. I massively preferred the keyboard games or the like mouse and keyboard and the PC games more than like the 2600. Even though it was so much more difficult to use, it was not user friendly. It was like really, I don't know how. I don't think you could have made an interface that would drive people away more easily than trying to play games in freaking DOS. Like, I don't know that you could have done that, but I preferred that so much to the Atari 2600. And I have no idea why. Like, I don't know why, but I had that kind of the complete opposite reaction. We kind of had the same similar experience with it, but I actually spent more time gaming on PC, even though I had an Atari 2600 and then like the original Nintendo and so on and so forth. I still always had consoles, but I was constantly gaming on PC as well, and I always preferred the PC games. So I don't know why I'm like that. I could probably say that about a lot of stuff, but yeah, that's
sort
really
of feeds
interesting.
into why I like PC so much. And I love consoles as well, which is probably pretty weird for an average internet citizen to hear that a PC player would love consoles as well. But the thing about it was like learning how to navigate those things and how to learn new interfaces, and like that's what got me into like IT and computer at all, like, and gave me the foundation for the career I have today. And after the DOS era, it was Windows 95, and I played tons of games. Like, I was modding Empire RTS, Age of Empires, yep.
Oh yeah.
Every game on PC had cheats, which you had to buy some stupid cartridge for cheats on console.
Game Shark.
Yeah, with Game Shark, which I never bought, but my friend always had, so I've seen what they can do. But then like things like when Morrowind came out, like Morrowind is so formative for me because I spent 1,000 hours in that game as a kid, and like the first 300 of it was before I even understood how to play the game, because the game does not handhold, and I was like messing around. I was using cheats. I was like killing quest givers and like doing all kinds of stuff. But then I figured out how to play the game, and I played the game in earnest. And then I was so like in love with the world of Morrowind and just the immersion that it gave me that I started modding Morrowind. And that's like props to Bethesda for their like insanely good modding tools. But like, the PC is just my home, I guess. That being said, console, I think is more affordable, and that counts for a heck of a lot. And I think some gamers kind of forget that. Like, I had zero money. Like, the PC games that I played were on my dad's hardware, and he was more into the technical side, like installing Linux in like 2002 and, you know, doing that kind of stuff. And so I got to borrow his stuff when when he didn't need it. And so that meant I had nothing to game on when my dad needed that stuff. And I didn't have a ton of money, so like scrounging up and going and getting a Super Nintendo from, you know, the bargain bin at GameStop in 2001 or 1999 or whatever was like, that was so much more attainable for me. And I've told stories about like the Super Nintendo before. It's just I love games. That's like, console is like the games I grew up on, I think. And that continued on until I even got a job. Then I was building my own PCs, like in earnest. Like, now I get to build my own PC. And yeah, that's where I've been since, because I can afford it. That's it. Like, consoles are for people to afford. Yeah.
I mean, so I agree with that statement as well, but I also feel like the console experience is unique. Although there are emulators now on PC, but at the time was very unique to the PC experience. You know, like, you know, you had Morrowind, you know, and I remember there's some MMOs that were very popular in the day. Before World of Warcraft, there were other MMOs that were out that were kind of blocky, not as good graphics.
EverQuest.
Was that? You say?
EverQuest.
Yes.
Yep.
So like, you had those games, right? But like consoles, you know, we had Final Fantasy, we had all the Square Enix ones, Chrono Trigger, you know, which I felt had as big and expansive as a world, just, you know, in sprite form. But, you know, to me, I was thinking about it too, like right now, and I think there are comparable games between the two. You know, I'm sure, you know, like the space sim, the flight sims were great on the PC. You know, but on the console side, you have like, you know, F-Zero on the Nintendo. You know, and the console games to me felt more like, not all, mind you, more like handcrafted to kind of guide you through a fun experience. Whereas sometimes on the PC side, you would struggle a little bit with the drivers and, you know, updating software or whatever. But you know, and now I'm kind of getting back into the PC side of things. You know, I feel like I can appreciate more that, you know, they each offer something unique for everyone. Although, and maybe I'll talk about it a little bit later, but nowadays, you know, it definitely feels like the uniqueness of each is kind of starting to kind of go away, you know. Because it seems like now, like now you can play anything on anything, almost, you know. And I think that's kind of, go ahead.
Well,
sorry, Matt.
no, that's something I was like, I actually had been thinking about for this, and in my opinion, and like that, what's the word for like homogeneity or what are the cross-platformness is freaking fantastic. I absolutely hate exclusives. It's like you know, because you had like the console wars forever, which I guess are still going on, even though everyone's like, oh, like the PlayStation 5 is better than the Xbox Series 1 XSX, whatever it is. Microsoft, figure out your name stuff, please.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake. And like right now it's, and you ask them, it's like, do you have a PlayStation 5? Like, no, I can't get one. It's like, well, does it matter? Like, what's going on? But anyways, all that like exclusivity stuff, in my opinion, maybe there's something out there I haven't considered, but it's like just out there to make Xbox and PlayStation more money, like to make like rabid fans who want to attack the other one and things like that. And then forever you've had like the PC master race people who have been all like elitist or whatever, And so for me, I absolutely love the fact that like all those walls to an extent are getting broken down. I absolutely hate the fact that like the Epic Game Store and like Steam, they're now doing exclusive stuff. It's dumb. I'm going to sneeze.
Oh,
Does
bless
Steam
you.
have exclusives?
Sorry about that.
Like explicit exclusives? You mean the Epic
yeah,
Games
like
store?
yeah, Epic Games doing exclusives, things like that. I absolutely hate that stuff because when it comes down to it, like you brought up like the multiplayer, which absolutely I think PC broke into a lot earlier because of, the technology, the ability to just basically have any PC already had like an Ethernet card in it and things like that. So it got into the multiplayer stuff a lot earlier, like the internet multiplayer rather than like couch co-op, than consoles. But now that consoles are all internet connected and things like that, I 100%, I love the fact that I can play, this is like the only, okay, I play like 3 games, so don't judge me, whatever. That I can play Destiny with my friends on console now, like whether they're on PlayStation, whether they are on Xbox, the game cloud Xbox app
Yep.
thing, streaming cloud.
Xbox
Yes.
Cloud, I think.
Y'all,
Yeah.
Well,
that
it's
thing.
it's
Absolutely
Stadia
love
done
it.
right, basically. Google tried to do it, but their
Well, you can still
monetization
play
is
Destiny
horrible.
on Stadia.
Yeah, but their monetization is horrible. Like, they charge you for every game.
I have no
Have you guys
idea.
tried the xCloud? You have?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have. I like it.
I loaded up Destiny on it, but the problem with Destiny is it requires a separate controller. Like you can't do on-screen buttons. So I loaded it up and I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's like, it looks great, but I can't play it. I need a controller.
Like on your phone or something?
Yeah. You need an external controller to play it on a phone. Like it'll run it, but you need like a Bluetooth controller or something to actually play it.
You can actually use your Xbox One controllers as long as they're newer than a certain generation to map to your phone.
I was at work trying to play it.
Okay. Yeah.
So I didn't have my controller, and I was doing it over my cell phone signal, and it still played and looked like great.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm impressed. Like, for me, that's been the biggest, impression. The biggest impression on me is how great that xCloud actually is. How it lets you play it on technically any device.
Yeah.
Which is like just,
it's, I'm super wary of that though, because 1, you don't own the game, and 2, the game could cease to exist once it's done, which means people later can't play it. Like let me start over. If cloud gaming becomes a universal majority activity and people stop buying games, they just buy a subscription to cloud and you play it there, that gives so much control over the games that you own and play in whatever your time in your house, in your property, among your property or whatever. That control you just forfeit to the company that provides the service. And I know that it's taken for granted a lot nowadays, like having a disc or having something that you can, when your power goes out, not the power, because you need the power, when your internet goes out, or you live in a place that's rural, which I have for, several years, that doesn't have good internet. I was running off a Raspberry Pi router with my phone, connected to my phone, and that sucked. I barely played Mass Effect multiplayer on it, which should tell you how long ago that was. Like that stuff sucks when games like make it exclusive to some kind of cloud service or always on connection. Like that's like an online service at that point.
So I'm not going to disagree with your point there. However, I would, and again, I feel like we're drifting into a completely different episode here, but I would argue that realistically, you like it doesn't matter if it's it's streaming cloud. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with words today. I'm sorry. If it's like the cloud streaming service gaming things, rearrange those words to put them in the right order. Or whether it's like something you downloaded from the Xbox Game Pass or PlayStation Network or even Steam or something like that. Realistically, when it comes down to it, it is if you keep if that computer or that console is connected to internet, it's like it would be pretty trivial for them to lock you out of that game. You download a patch or whatever, and then at any point they lock you out of the game. If you don't connect to the internet, again, there's all sorts of logic ways to do that. And so, man, I feel like that's a whole episode on how like crappy game developers can be. And we just have to trust them not to be, which
is terrifying.
I don't.
And
that is
not,
terrifying.
It's not a matter of distrusting developers, because there's a lot of great developers out there, indie and otherwise. But giving that type of control is just insane. Like, I mean, for any software, and that's why let's stop the rabbit trail there.
Yeah. Here's a kind of a side question. I mean, do you feel the same way in regards to either music or movies?
I do.
The subscription services for both are pretty big right now.
It's also different, right? Because if you watch a movie,
it's still digital rights technically. Like,
this is why the movie industry is so much more strong about DRM and piracy, and there's a lot more of a fight that they're fighting, because once you watch a movie, you're done. You've watched the story, and unless it really resonates with you as a viewer, you're not going to consume that again. You've already consumed it. That's why.
But like HBO Max has a subscription service, and you can watch like movies in theaters, like almost day of release. Yeah. So
Well, they're stopping that. They're not going to do that anymore.
But a lot of them are still coming out maybe like a month later now, as opposed to right on the date. So if you have the service, you still get the thing. So I liken it almost to like Xbox Game Pass, right? Where you have a selection of games, or you have a section of movies. Yeah. And it's a subscription to access both. And both have games that come and go. Same with movies and stuff like that too.
As we have talked about before, I am a lazy man. And so convenience really speaks to me. So a subscription service for movies and TV shows, which I mean, honestly, I probably could cancel all of mine because I watch maybe one or two every month.
Yeah. There's so many out there right now too.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing, which, dang, we're getting back into this tangent. Emiliano, stop it.
Well, no, I mean,
what do you mean getting back? Y'all
never
brought
up like the digital, like the games going away. So, and yes, that is a fear.
That too.
But like
those two things kind of change music and music is a different conversation. But movies and TV, just like linear visual media, the fact that you consume it once and it's most likely going to be done for you, and the fact that it's convenient.
You've obviously never watched Lord of the Rings. All right, you don't just watch it once. Okay,
I was getting to that. I'm okay with those types of subscriptions because it gives me access to a vast library that I can feasibly consume, right? And it gives me the convenience of being able to pick, and I don't have to have them on my shelf. Now, that being said, if I really like it and the media that I consume really resonates with me, I want a physical copy, which we have. Me and my wife are crazy about Lord of the Rings. We've got all the extended editions, and she has watched the appendices 1,000,000 hours.
That's great.
But the, you can't, it is better to do that for a linear visual media like video. And then it allows you to afford the ones that you really care about and keep those on your shelf. But everything else that talks about the potential for disappointment, right? When you play a video game, chances are you get, hopefully, some kind of good experience out of it, even if you don't enjoy the game totally. In a movie or
like Cuphead,
that's a deep cut. That's a deep cut.
It is, but that perfectly describes the situation. Now my dogma in like forcing myself to beat it is my fault and no one else's. But with movies, if you go to the theater and you see a movie that sucks, you're out $10. Like you're never getting it back. So subscriptions kind of help with that. They help with that potential loss of time and money that you spend. So I don't know, for movies and TV, that makes so much more sense to me, because now I can choose to put my money where I really care about it, is the stuff that I want to retain. You know, I have bought TV shows that I watched on subscription services because I want to have it, even when I'm not subscribed anymore. But for games,
all right.
But,
I'm
trying to bring it back.
See,
well, I was gonna drag us kicking and screaming back to the topic.
Wait. Hold on. I'm gonna say my piece.
Oh my gosh.
So, because everything you described is basically Game Pass. It's like, instead of movies, you're perusing games, and if you like the game, you can purchase it. You know, so I don't know. Like, to me, Game Pass is they're all purchasable through the game store. Like. You can install it with Game Pass.
He's trying to imply that you don't really own it even when you purchase it.
And I guess I'm now bleeding my argument into digital. Get the disc. Like we started talking about digital rights management.
Yeah, that's a whole.
And I'm conferring the two. Like I'm blurring the two, but purposefully, because that's all mechanisms of control that publishers and game companies have over our experiences, and they giveth and they can taketh away, and that's like. I value games so much that I want to be able to replay a game, because I do value replaying a game, and the experience that it gives me, it like encapsulates the nostalgia and the experience, like the emotions that I have during the game, the fun. Like, I don't know, you can get a repeat dopamine rush by playing the same thing over and again.
Have you played any? Because like I have a stack of like games that I treasure that I've stored, and I swear I have not touched my collection.
I play Fable probably every 3 years. All the Fable games. Yeah, I love those games.
Nice.
I play Super Mario World. Great. I've played that game probably 15, 20 times.
Yeah.
I have it.
I haven't replayed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just haven't.
But that, beyond just for me, like I want other people to be able to experience games. How many games have now started just getting disabled everywhere?
Well, do you buy your PC games on disc, or do you buy them digital? Because it's just Steam and Epic that are the main storefronts,
I buy it
right?
on Steam because that's convenient.
Consoles have the discs, the cartridges you can buy.
Thank you for bringing us back to the topic of the conversation. That's 1 point in favor of consoles. Consoles, you have the floor.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw it out there, and I hate that I'm doing this. I hate myself for this. With our, like we talked about way earlier in the episode, how developers like make a game and fix it later. Necessarily, if you are buying a disc, which I think this is a downside of consoles, where if you, again, I know you can download directly onto consoles. Instead of, which by the way, publishers should just allow preloading. Like that's a thing they should allow, but whatever. If you buy the disc, you're buying like a 2 to 3 month old build of the game. And so if you never connect it to the internet and never update it, you have probably got a buggiest game. And so, in my opinion, I don't know if that's necessarily a knock on consoles as much as it is a knock on, well, one, the developers, and just in physical media in and of itself. So
that's a current development. Like, when I was growing up, the game you bought was the full game. It wasn't.
Let me step in, because I think we're so off topic. We're now talking about digital rights management and games, whether they're complete, and can you play a game offline, and that's all very interesting. But that happens on all three of those platforms: mobile, console, and PC, unfortunately. So maybe the title of this podcast should be really, "We hate unfinished, deletable digital games." I don't know. We hate digital games.
No.
I love digital
games
games
too.
Uh,
I love digital games.
I love
the
digital
convenience
games,
of
but I am
games.
also like the
Yeah.
person. I mean, I go around telling people like in Google we trust. Like that's where I am on this whole situation.
Yeah.
Preparing
So
for the
I
AI
welcome
over,
our robot
you know,
overlords.
the new AI
Go,
overlords.
go.
But I am going to get us back on topic. I swear. So
Yeah.
Crack, Clint, you said earlier that you are a sucker for convenience. And so we've talked about PC, we've talked about game consoles, and we've kind of touched on mobile.
Yeah.
But if you're a sucker for convenience, how do you feel about mobile gaming? Because in my opinion, that's like the most convenient out of all of them.
So, I guess I'm ambivalent to them because I don't know enough about them and I don't have the time for them. And what I mean by that is I got an iPhone 3GS, like the third generation or whatever. I guess it was the third year iPhones were out, right at the beginning of college. And so that was like right when the App Store became a thing and mobile gaming became a thing. I mean, Android had it also, but I didn't have an Android before then, so I can't speak to it. I played so many mobile games. I played Farmville like clones that I didn't know were clones because I didn't have a Facebook account. I played Words with Friends. I played all kinds of games. I played first-person shooters on the iPhone. I had my brother-in-law at the time was super into mobile gaming. That's it. Like he didn't really play video games, but he had Apple devices and he played just mobile games. And so he would come over, whenever the family got together and tell me like, here are the best mobile games, and I'd try out a few. And like Tanks is really fun. Played Worms on, like, you can play a lot of things on mobile. At the end of the day, the control scheme for me just kills it. Like touch
hard.
controls suck. They will never not suck. Unless for some reason they can like track your finger locations and like do some kind of like smoothing algorithm to like make it so you can control things really fine with your fingers and just like the way they're, squeezed or curled or whatever. I don't see that happening for the next 10 years at least. So yeah, mobile touch screens. So what ended up was like I only played mobile games when it was convenient, which meant when I was avoiding schoolwork at school or I was on the run or like I had nothing to do or I couldn't afford any more games or whatever. Like mobile gaming is fine. Nowadays though, there are a lot of cool games, but they're all, knee deep that I know of. I know that we'll talk about Genshin Impact. Don't give me that look, Emiliano.
But no, I go ahead. I'm gonna counterpoint you, but go ahead. Finish your statement.
Please do.
He's actually playing Genshin Impact on his phone right now. That's why he's looking down.
I don't even remember what the words are. Rolling a new avatar or something. Stop buying microtransactions. Anyway, it's just. I think like Monument Valley is a good example of a game that I really enjoyed, but is really short. And there's a lot of like puzzle games that are just they're cool, but then they're done really quickly, I guess. So I can't remember. I know that there's like some really cool third person besides Genshin Impact, like 3D, because the technology now is like almost indistinguishable from like the late 2000s era graphics. Like mobile devices are so powerful nowadays. You can play like full PS2 games on mobile devices. I wouldn't know how to do that, but it's like totally possible. So I guess there's potential for depth, but I haven't seen it. So I've had a lot of fun in mobile gaming, but it just don't have time or patience for touch controls.
So counterpoint to
yeah,
all that. And yeah, I think back because the iPhone 4 is when I first got into iPhone gaming, and yeah, the touch control was bad, but the tech with touch controls nowadays is so much better. Like it definitely feels like it has adaptive touch where it can, where I have a big finger, and when I'm touching the screen, it seems to kind of know what I'm trying to do a lot of the times and do what I want it to do. Sometimes it doesn't always work, but it definitely feels like there's some software running behind the hardware to make it a lot smoother, especially when you're playing games. So you mentioned Genshin Impact. So let me talk a little bit on that with gaming, because I started Genshin Impact on the mobile phone, and it was great. I mean, what you mentioned about the hand controls is true. Your thumbs and fingers block the screen when you're playing, and it takes away from the experience because, if an enemy shows up under your thumb, it interrupts the gameplay because you're having to reposition your hands, it's for that too. But Genshin Impact on the mobile was amazing. It had Zelda elements to it in a huge world, but its combat was focused on rotating your characters and creating elemental reactions in order to defeat enemies. And it looked beautiful. You had the graphics were amazing on the phone. I remember I tried playing it on the PS4, and it ran worse on the PS4 than it did on my iPhone.
Yep.
And it's crazy. The PS4, it ran horribly. It was stuttering. It was dropping frames. I couldn't play it because I'm trying to move, and I would be dying because things would freeze for a second.
Yeah.
So I recently, thanks to Crack, started playing Genshin Impact on the PC. And
what have I done?
It is impressive. I've gone back to play it on the mobile. I'm at the park watching my kid soccer practice.
Yeah.
I can still play it on the mobile phone. Playing it on the PC definitely makes it feel like the lesser option. However, I'm at the park sitting in a chair playing Genshin Impact.
Playing on PC is a lesser option? Or
no,
mobile?
I'm sorry, playing on the mobile, on the mobile phone. But I'm playing the full game on my phone at the park. It's the same game, like nothing between the mobile and the PC and the console. PS5, I'm talking about now, because I hear that one is still a good experience.
Yeah.
Nothing's taken away. It's the same experience, minus the controls between mobile, PC, and console, and it's incredible. As for other games too, I feel like there have been a lot of indie games being ported over to the iPhone and the Android. On my phone right now, I have Dead Cells, Hyper Light Drifter, Monster Hunter Stories, which was a 3DS game, but they ported it here. Binding of Isaac, Kingdom. Again, playing it on the phone takes some getting used to. It definitely feels like the lesser version of those games that you can play on the Switch, another mobile device, or on the PC. But just having that freedom, to me, being able to play, and then the xCloud too opens up a whole other window of console games on the go. And
right.
I played xCloud on my cell service, and it was great. It felt fantastic. So the one caveat with mobile gaming that I feel has been so detrimental to the gaming industry as a whole is the gacha games. The games where you're rolling, opening up a chest and hoping you get the weapon, the character, the skin, or what have you in the game. I think because that's a huge moneymaker. And that's kind of infected console gaming. It's infected PC gaming now. We have MMOs that have incorporated a bunch of that crap into them. We have Madden, which is just riddled with, Ultimate Team gacha games, EA, Battlefront. So it definitely feels like, a lot of these, although, Matt, you had mentioned that you don't like exclusives, I don't know. I feel like I kind of like that identity of the console or the mobile or the PC, like Sonic. That's Sega,
Why can't we just all be friends? Why can't we all just get along?
I mean, I just feel that kind of competition helps create great games. I doubt. I don't know. In my mind, this is what I'm thinking. Have you guys have played Horizon Zero Dawn? Or you have, right, Crack?
I have, yeah.
Would that game have been made like the way it was for the PC? Because I feel like Sony wanted a blockbuster game, and they went to Naughty Dog, and they funneled them money to make this like masterpiece for the PlayStation 4. Like that was like a showpiece for the PlayStation 4. That sold systems. Would that game have been the same?
Okay, hang on. I wanna interject on this because I have some opinions. I have them, right? So in my opinion, the only people that benefit from that sort of stuff, from exclusives, are the developers,
the publishers,
the platform that the publishers. Thank you. Those are the only people that benefit. It does not benefit the consumers, because this is the deal. If they want to make a game like that, they are going to make a game like that. And it doesn't matter who, like, as long as somebody's like paying the bills, as long as the light stays on, if that developer wants to make that game and they're given the freedom to do so, they are going to make that game. Like, I know Halo is not necessarily like the greatest of examples because there's a dozen of them or whatever, and some of them are great, some of them suck, but there are some truly amazing games that were made by Bungie when it was owned by Microsoft, and so that was a console exclusive and everything like that or an Xbox exclusive, but then Bungie continued to make the games they wanted to make. Now they did stumble here and there, but now that it's on every console, realistically, the current version of Destiny is probably the best it's ever been, and like people are loving it. And so if a developer wants to make a great game, I think they're going to, and I think opening up to every platform helps the developer and hurts, like, and the only person that gets hurt by exclusives is the consumer, because if I can buy, like, I will throw $60 at any publisher that I'm that is
that
not,
you don't conscientiously
abusing their employees and things like that. I'll throw them $60. The fact that, because like right now, I only have a PC. I mean, I guess technically I have an Xbox that has not been booted up in over a year, but so effectively I only have a PC. I would pay, like, if Horizon Forbidden West, I think is the new one, if that was on PC, I would buy it, I would play it, but Sony wants you to buy a PlayStation, so they're going to force you to try and buy a PlayStation. They're like, oh, look at this game that we've made and how exclusive it is, and you can be cool too, and all the women will love you, and you'll drive a fast car, and like if you just buy a PlayStation, and exactly,
Oof.
right?
Oof.
So I am 100% for cross-platform everything. Now, asterisk, and this kind of goes to what you were talking about previously with Genshin Impact, whatever. Your mobile game. So, like, recently, I have been playing a lot of Elden Ring on PC, and I'm having kind of the opposite reaction. I get, like, there's times, again, I'm running on like a 4-year-old graphics card. I do have a pretty good PC otherwise, but it is a 4-year-old graphics card, and there's gonna be times, like, there's times when it stutters and things like that. Supposedly it runs great on console, but I absolutely love the fact that, yes, 100%, if I had a console, I could play it on console. If I have it on PC, I can play it on PC. If I have friends on both, I can play with both. So it is I think the exclusives are completely anti-consumer. I absolutely hate them. And I love the fact that I would love to see the distinction between console gamer and mobile gamer and PC gamer. I would love to see that go away. I would love to just be like, oh yeah, I play whatever. I play Genshin Impact and not have it followed up with like, oh, do you play on mobile or PC or PlayStation or whatever? You know, I just want people to play games that they want to play on the platform they want to play it on with the people they want to play. Like I want to see I want games for everyone. Like that's, you know, thanks
I was
for
just
coming to
my
my
say
TED
that.
Talk. I'm running for office. You know,
I do want to jump in.
Like that's my opinion.
Because I agree with you 100%, Matt. Miliano, I to respond to what you're saying, like would Horizon Zero Dawn be made for any other system? It gets kind of tricky when you're talking about like, okay, what influences did a game take in to become what it is? So if we put a restriction on the design of the game and say, okay, the game that Naughty Dog was going to make, or whoever, I can't remember who made Horizon Zero Dawn, if the game they want to make is a third-person action RPG that is set in a post-apocalyptic, you know, open world, and is like cinematic, or not linear, but cinematic, has cinematic elements, and like you start adding all of these requirements for what the game is going to be, I feel like the developer is 100% control of that. The part where it doesn't quite make sense is the control scheme. And that's where, unfortunately, I think, Matt, your games everywhere for everyone mantra kind of breaks down, is that mobile does not have the controls that PC has. And console does not have PC does not have the controls that console have. Now, you can plug in a controller to PC, but that's like a dual compatibility decision that the developer has to make when they release on PC. Does it support a controller? Right. Which most games do nowadays, thankfully. So, like, I think there are influences. Like, Monument Valley can be played on any platform, I think. I don't know. But it was designed for mobile. And so the inputs are relatively simple, right? And that affected what type of game it was on. So you have a point. Like, where it's developed has, you know, a huge impact on what kind of game is going to be made. But I don't think that restricting the game to one platform is necessarily good for the games. You know, I it's tough because there's an economic part of it with the publisher and the supply and demand. There's the controls and mechanical parts of it, and then there's the design and the vision part of it, and all of those things. I don't think it's as simple as like games on PlayStation are going to be made in a certain way. Now there's lots of influences that go into it, so I get your point. I personally can't support exclusives. I hate them so much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so here's kind of my final whatever to that. And those are all good. You know, I agree with your points. However, like Bungie,
I agree with you.
Bungie did not start with Destiny. Bungie started with Marathon. And then Microsoft bought them. And then they made Xbox at the behest of Microsoft in order to sell Xboxes. So they made Halo. And it was good. And people liked Halo. Halo and Microsoft allowed them to make Destiny 2.
Yeah. Without
Microsoft, they would not have made Destiny 2. Same thing with Horizon Zero Dawn. I think it was Naughty Dog. Prior to that, they'd done Sly Cooper, which was like a platformer. And you're like a thief. You play like a raccoon thief or something. I'm kind of hard to remember.
They made a bunch of games. They were really prolific.
But all for the PlayStation. You know, so when they made Horizon Zero Dawn, that was Sony going to them saying, "Here's our new console. We want you to make a game for us," and they pay them. You know, I don't know who would have can a publisher, like most of the current stuff nowadays are kind of more indie, lower budget titles. Not that they're not any good, just Horizon Zero Dawn was a big budget game made specifically for the PlayStation. And I just don't know if a developer could have spent the time that they spent on Horizon Zero Dawn and made that game like for just on a whim for the PC. One thing about the PlayStation 5 that has me very intrigued is their adaptive controllers. That the idea behind that, and I know PC has like steering wheels that do something like that, right?
Yeah.
But
And VR.
Sony, VR, and Sony has VR, but the adaptive controllers, I've been reading about like certain games that take full advantage of that. Either the racing, the shooting where the gun jams and stuff. The ideas behind it and the developers that are implementing it sound to me like have me excited to get a PlayStation 5 because of that tech.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel like I like exclusives because it allows these developers to make the games that they want, that I don't think we would have without these exclusives. Like I just don't see Horizon Zero Dawn being made without Sony's backing. If Sony wasn't there, I don't think Naughty Dog would have made Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't think we would have Forbidden West now, which looks fantastic. We wouldn't have God of War either. God of War, and they've both imported the PC, which is fantastic.
I will continue to disagree.
I still have to disagree because who's funding it
Sony.
is disconnected. No, who is funding a game is not necessarily connected to the console. Like
yes, that is true.
I don't want to say
yeah.
I don't want to say this to be like you're wrong, Ronan.
Mm-hmm.
All games should be on all platforms, and you shouldn't get a PS5. Like, if you're excited for a PS5, that's awesome because games are awesome and everyone should play them, and everyone should have fun playing them because they are fun and they're awesome.
Yeah,
on any platform.
That being said,
games for everyone.
I know just software doesn't work like that. Like, it's not better because it's on PS5. Like, if it's better because it's not innately better because it's on PS5. They put the time into building it for PS5.
Yeah.
And that's why it's better on PS5. And a port of a PS5 game could suck on another. Like, God of War was an excellent PC port. But the what was the Square Enix game that was ported?
Elden Ring?
No.
Final Fantasy?
Maybe it was. I'm trying to remember. There was another PlayStation exclusive that got ported to PC, and it was terrible. And that was absolutely a value decision that the developers made in not investing the amount of time
Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, that's a
the PC port of Grand Theft Auto I hear is horrible.
I don't know about that situation. I'm not into the Grand Theft Auto games, but I just know that it can be done. Is that if a publisher or a developer decides to put the money into adapting it, minus the control scheme difference, right? If you can only play a specific game experience and the control scheme like it's designed for. So as long as you have that control scheme across platforms, I think it can go anywhere. But that's okay.
Yeah.
We just know that Ronan hates us because he's a PlayStation guy.
No. I mean, I don't have PlayStation 5. Like, I'm just saying that I feel like,
no one does.
Yeah,
Ronan.
no one does. But, money makes games. And I don't know if Naughty Dog would have had the money to make it on their own, like with Destiny, Destiny needed Activision.
That's why they get into publishing deals.
Yeah, Destiny needed Activision in order to make Destiny. And that was a bum deal because I think Activision did them dirty. But now that they're separate from Activision, they're able to do their own thing, which still has some problems. But like, Bungie wasn't able to do that on their own. Everything they've done until now has been because of all these other, things that they've done.
I feel like the problem at the heart of that is publishers versus console makers, right? And who's funding the games. It's like, I could make a game on a freaking... I don't have any specialized hardware in mind, but like I could make a game for like an LCD screen slapped to 2 buttons, right? And if I don't have the money to make it, then that's going to die, and maybe I'll make it on a PC platform instead. Like, when you remove the game from it, because the game can go anywhere, in my opinion, that the control scheme...
No. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn's on a PC, and apparently it's amazing.
Yeah, it is good.
I love how controllers now seem to have a universal button layout for the most part. Game to game. PC has the Q and E key and the WASDs. I love it. Like QE. I'm like, it's all the same. Genshin Impact, QE, WASD. Dying Light, QE, WASD. I love it.
Emiliano's referring to the W, A, S, and D keys, which on PC you use to control forward, back, left, and right.
Yep, forward, back, left, and right. It's great.
And then you play it like Halo, and it has a different Halo Infinite, and has a different like keyboard layout than any other first-person shooter, and it is it's so stupid. Luckily, you can remap it. Again, I think the versatility of PC is definitely one of the big things that's nice about it.
I do want to say, this is such a nitpick, so I'm sorry, but Bungie making Halo, that was not an Xbox platform game. The first trailer went live in an Apple keynote because it was going to be released on a Mac. And then Microsoft stole it from them. Well, not stole, but bought out from under them.
Yeah, it wasn't originally developed.
That ended... that effectively stole the gaming, like PC gaming scene from Apple. Which, I mean, that just shows Halo itself was going to be a PC, like a desktop computer game in the Mac. So,
but would it have been as popular on a Mac?
Yeah, all you Mac gamers sound off.
Well, that's the counterpoint, because would it be as popular on the Mac? It would be limited by Mac's player audience, and how many
Mac's
people can afford a Mac? Not very many people.
I bought an OG Xbox because of Halo.
Yeah.
I went
eventually
into
got
Target.
One because of Halo.
I bought it, and there was a gunman that came in, and I had to run to the back of the Target because there was a guy with a gun in the front of the
wait, what?
Okay, we have to end the episode.
You're taking this
soon,
first-person shooter thing too
but
far.
I want to hear the story.
This is years ago.
Can you tell the story?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like, so I walked into Target, and I see some like guards taking a guy into like a side room. And I'm walking, and then all of a sudden the guards walk out with their hands up, and the dude has a gun on him, and everyone just runs to the back of the room. We're back there for a bit, and I guess the guy must have ran out. But that was it. It wasn't a big thing. Well, I guess it was, but
did the cops show up?
Eventually, yeah. But
did they set up
left.
like a perimeter and not let anybody in, or did you just go get back in line?
No. I got my stuff and I left. Like, I was able to still buy it. And I just took off. It's like, I'm not going to wait here for the cops or anything. I want to get out of here.
I'm also not leaving this line because I'm about to hand over my money.
Well, yeah, it was hard to get an Xbox at the time. And so I had it. And I'm like, I'm not, I'm buying this thing. I'm not going to.
Ronan is he is the alpha gamer. He is the original gamer.
No. I mean, and
dude comes out of the room with a gun. I just stayed in line.
No. I mean, we all ran. Everyone went to the back of the store. There was like a lady hiding inside of a circular clothing rack, crying, and I'm like, man, I was like, it's okay. Nothing's, because I think the guy just wanted to get out. He didn't seem like he was trying to come and start anything. Like, I guess he must have been caught. He pulled the gun on the dudes. They walked out, and then I mean, at that point, I was walking to the back, or I wasn't running. I was kind of hurriedly following the crowd.
For any international audience listening to this, we swear this doesn't happen very often.
Oh, no. When did the Xbox come out? The OG one? That was like
2001 or 3 or something.
Yeah, okay, you're right. 2000, whatever. Yeah. So, yeah. That's my target.
I
story.
mean, statistically speaking, it's happened to 33% of us.
Yeah. And with that optimistic note,
just throwing it out there.
Oh, but the OG Xbox Dukes were amazing.
I liked them. I liked the smaller form factor too, but I played a lot on the old ones. So who won? What platform won?
Matt was tallying the scores. Matt, what's the score?
The score is the one that you have, and or the one that your friends play on with you. That's my final tally. That's what I got.
I like it.
Don't spend money on loot crates, please.
Also
buy
solid
physical.
Advice. But for sure.
Buy physical.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this episode went all over the place. Like, this is definitely not where I thought we were going to go with this. But again, I mean, I had fun. I think it was a good talk. So yeah, absolutely. And if you made it to the end of this episode, we appreciate you a lot because it probably was not the easiest of listens. I apologize for that. But hopefully you got some good information about that. Hopefully, if you agree with us, awesome. You're a good person and we appreciate you. If you don't agree with us, let us know in the comments. Let us know what we got wrong. Let us know what we missed out on. I will gladly argue with you. Politely disagree with you in the comments and things like that. Remember, we are on Twitter. We haven't been the greatest about our social media, but we are W Sometimes Show on Twitter. We occasionally game on twitch.tv/winning sometimes show. And you can always email us at show@winningsometimes.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye. Bye. Not the easiest of listens. What are you talking about? We're great.